All right, cool. Well, folks, thanks for jumping in. We got Diamond here. She's going to go ahead and go over the 5W's of GitHub, explain the importance of it. She does work in DevOps, but I think we all can relate. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to her.
Hey, thank you for having me. Hey, everybody. Again, my name is Diamond. So I work in the DevSecOps and SRE area. So, and I also got my start from just doing open source projects online and kind of, getting my experience in so that I can compete for job roles and things of that sort. And one of the ways that I did that was leveraging Git and GitHub. Basically, anything that I built, anything that I made, I put it on GitHub so that other people could see what I was doing. Because, talking about it is amazing. That's great. But a lot of people want to see proof of what you've actually done. So, and with GitHub, you don't have to always code. GitHub can also be a place where you put your notes. It could be a place where maybe you drew out some kind of, game plan of how you wanted to attack your learning, or maybe you were doing networking stuff and you had to do some diagrams or whatever. You can put that on GitHub as well. And it shows as basically like your physical resume. Because your resume is just words, but when you actually have some kind of proof that someone else can see, like for them, it makes it easier to decide if they want to use you as, a candidate for a job role, or maybe, it might be that deciding factor where they're trying to figure out, like which candidate should we use? And, they have this body of work that they can, bounce off, like, this person is actually really good. Look what they've done. It's documented. So that's one of the things where I think GitHub kind of comes in handy for everyone who's starting out. And let me share my screen so I can kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Hold on. Let me share. I'm one of those people who has like a million different windows and like screens, so which is why my computer is always shutting down on me.
It's all good. It's all good.
Hold on. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. So, it's not what I wanted to do. Here we go. Okay. So first you have Git, right? So to even use GitHub, you have to download this program. It's called Git. And it basically serves as like your version control. That's kind of how your laptop or desktop, whatever you're using, it's kind of how your system takes control or understands what exactly you're doing in your computer, and it kind of saves like your progress points. And it serves as like, this is the system or thing in place that kind of, it serves as a way to kind of save your stuff in your computer, and then you use GitHub as like I would say like your hard drive where you actually save your work onto. But to save onto GitHub, you need Git first. So what you would do is you would download Git, and I already have it downloaded on my machine. But if you have a Mac, Windows, Linux, you would just choose one of these and you follow the prompts to go ahead and download. Like for example, I'm on a Mac, so I would just do these commands, which it's a little simpler when you have a Mac, or if you have a Linux machine, so you just do these commands. But if you have a Windows, it's a little bit more steps you have to take. So you have to download these packages, and then you'll follow the prompts and install and all that good stuff. And then once you do that, you would have to download the actual not download, but you have to make a profile in GitHub. So like you'll go to github.com. I'm already logged in, but usually what you would do is you would make a new profile, put your name in, all that good stuff. And like, this is my profile. It's kind of bare, but that's because I have a separate GitHub for work. So I don't really use this one as much, but this is my personal. So you'd make a profile, you put your name in. And with this as well, you can also make it to where you have your own profile. So if someone pops onto your profile, they can kind of see what exactly you're up to, what you're learning, what you're into. Like I have up here, these are your repositories. So this would be kind of where you host all your projects. I have 101. Don't mind that number. I start things and then I don't finish it. Don't be like me. start what you like, finish what you start, but like you can have this area where you have your, oh, that's my website actually. But you can have it where you have your, like your biography. I think it's this one. Yeah. So you can have like your own biography when someone pops onto your profile. So it kind of gives them an idea of what you're into. Like on mine, I have, like, you can reach me on Twitter, LinkedIn. My blog is actually active now, so I can change that, but I'll change that later. But it's kind of like your online portfolio without actually creating a website. If you don't want to create a website, that's not like a mandatory thing in the software world. Your GitHub is like your portfolio, or it could serve as your portfolio, but you'd make a profile, you do all that good stuff. And then once you do that, you'd have to decide what platform you want to use to even like do your coding projects or whatever you're building. For me, I use VS Code. And to go to VS Code, you would just go into VS Code. You just search VS Code. And then you can download for whatever your machine is. I have a Mac, so of course Mac popped up first, but you can download for whatever system you have. So I already have VS Code downloaded. So my VS Code looks like this. So right now I'm doing Kubernetes the hard way with Azure. So this is kind of what I'm working on, but to even get to this point, I'll show you. So let me do open new window. So say you downloaded Git and you downloaded VS Code. Okay. So once you downloaded Git, once you downloaded VS Code, say you wanted to go and like make a project on your GitHub profile. So what you would do is go back. You would go to GitHub and you would go to your profile. So one of the easiest ways you can do that is in the top right corner, next to your profile picture, there'll be a plus sign, and you'll click that plus sign and you'll click new repository. And once you click new repository, you can name it. So like you maybe name it like my project. You can make it public, or you can make it private, say, or say if you have a private project that you're trying to do, but you don't want nobody to see, but you want it to show up on your GitHub portfolio as if like you made a project that you're working on, but only you can see. And like if you create a private one, after you create this whole repository, you can actually like make a link to people who can actually see that private project, or you can add specific people to go and see that private project. But if you put it on public, then anybody can see. I usually put my things on private just to start, and you can always change it from public to private later. And you can also add like a README, which is a README file. Is just basically the first file that'll pop up when you have a project, and it'll just basically give a description of whatever that you're building or whatever it is that you're writing. Doesn't matter what it is, you can always have that. So like say, for example, you'll create that repository. So now you've made this new project in your GitHub profile. There's nothing in it. So say you want to add something in it, or you want to make a new project, you want to build something and you want to have it on this here GitHub profile. What you would do is you would go click on code and you would copy this link right here. So you would click this little button that says copied. You would go back to that VS Code that you downloaded before. So you'd go in here. Make this bigger. So you'd go in here and you'd go and you make, let's see, a new file. So you'll click open. And usually when you're making a new project, you have to kind of put it in a folder first. So I usually put my stuff in like a labs folder. Actually, where is it? It's somewhere. Okay, apparently I put it in my projects folder. So you'll put in your projects folder. I'm going to make a new folder in here just as an example. So I'll just name this folder example. So this is where I want to put this project in. So I'll open up example here, and then I'll click on the top. You'll have like this row where it says file, edit, selection, view, go, run, terminal, window. You'd want to click terminal and click new terminal. And then in here, remember we copied that project kind of file area from the GitHub page. And we want to put that here so we could start working on our potential project. So what you would do is a command is called git clone. And remember, we downloaded Git in the first place. So this is all working through that Git version control system. So we use git clone. And then I copy that file link. So I'll just do Control V or Command V if you have a Mac. And you'll see that link is here now. So if I hit return, it just cloned my project onto my machine. So that project that I made on GitHub, that was on a public interface, whatever, but now it's on my local machine. So now I can make changes on my local machine. And once I'm done, I can save it and push it up back into the GitHub profile. And the main reason why we even have that is basically for collaboration. So say, for example, you were working on a project with 2, 3, 4 other people. And y'all, you're all doing your own things, working on it. Not everyone can work from that same public branch. It'll kind of mess things up. But if you can clone it to your local machine, do your changes, push it up, save it. Now that person can see the changes that you made. They don't have to wait to come into work the next day because you've already pushed it up. So now they can go work on these changes, make their little changes, push it up, and the next person can do the same thing. And also another reason why we have that as well is, say, for example, you are working on something and you are working so hard on it and you saved it and you pushed it up, and then maybe a couple hours later you broke your laptop, or someone stole your laptop, or maybe you made a change and like you broke your whole project, or you broke your whole solution. You still have that copy that you saved in your GitHub. So even though your laptop is broken or your laptop is stolen, or maybe you broke your whole problem, maybe you broke your whole solution, you still have that past code or that past project that you saved into GitHub a couple hours ago. So you can just go back and pull that back down, and now you have your project again. It's not completely lost. You don't have to start over from scratch. It's all there. So that's one of the good things of GitHub and Git, and why kind of everyone in software uses it. Or if you don't use it, you probably should use it. I mean, there's kind of no reason why you should not. But let me just give an example of how this even works. So now that we have this project on our local machine, let's say we wanted to make a new file. So I'm gonna make a random one. So let's say I wanted to do like main.py, right? Now that's a Python file, and you'll see that it's Python because the symbol up here changed into the Python symbol. I'm just gonna write some random stuff though. I'm not gonna actually write any code. I'm just gonna write scribble scrabble and pretend that I'm doing like something fancy, but I'm really not. So let's say I made this file. So you'll see right here, this number 1 popped up, and it's telling me that I made a change to this project file. And you'll see this more. So I'm gonna make some more files too before I even commit. So I'm gonna do another Python file and do some more scribble scrabble. And you see it's turning red because this is not Python code, but that's fine. Doesn't matter. I'm moving it into this file. So, but you can see here now there's 2 changes that were made. I'm gonna make just one more file. Run.py. I'm gonna make more scrabble. And you can see that 3 popped up. So 3 changes were made. Now, the one good thing about VS Code is you don't have to write a bunch of commands. So like usually you'll have to do like git add, and git add would add all of these files into a state where it's saying, okay, you made these changes, now we're going to save them. And then after that, you would have to write a command like git commit m. So like it'll be like, I don't know if you guys can see, or if I need to make my screen a little bigger. If you can't see, let me know. But you'll do like git commit -m, and you'll do like quotes, and you'll do like my first commit, and like you'll push that up, and it'll put it in a status where it's saying it's ready to save, and it has your message of what changes you made. And then from there you do like a git push, which would push it up into your GitHub profile. Now, because we're using VS Code, you don't have to do all those commands unless you absolutely want to. You can just do it all through here. So like it has an area where you could type in a message, which is what I was talking about earlier when I said that git commit in message. it's all right here. So I can just put my first commit. And then remember when I mentioned the git add first, so the git add would be the same thing as pressing, you can't really see it because of the colors that I use for my VS Code, but there's a plus sign next to each file that I made. So I would do plus sign, that's git add. So that's staging my changes. It's adding it up before it's ready to save. So I'll do it for the second one and I'll do it for the third one. And then now it's ready for me to kind of save it to be ready to push into GitHub. So I already wrote my message. All I need to do is press this this check mark. And this check mark basically just says like, okay, we're ready to save it. And once you save it, we can go ahead and push it. So I'm just gonna go through this. I'm gonna press that check mark. So that check mark, I made that press. Now you can't see where these changes went, but it's basically there and it's waiting for me to push it up into GitHub. So I can just do push, which now you can't see it here, but if I go back to my GitHub profile and I refresh this page, which was the original project that was posted on GitHub, and I just cloned it down to my local, now it's back up. So if I refresh it, it pops up. So you see all the changes that I made. It has the README file that I originally made it, those 3 files that I put on my VS Code. So it has all my scribble scrabble up here. It's all here. So everything that I made is on this file now. So if someone else wanted to come and look at my code, they can do the same thing that I did before, do the git clone and make their own changes, and they could work on it as well. Now, say for example, you were working with someone else and you both were making changes to this same GitHub project, you would have to make your own branches. So right now we're on this main branch. It's called main. And what you would do is if you're working with someone else, you would switch to a different branch. So you guys can still work on that same code, but you're working on 2 different copies on your local machines. And what you would basically do is, so say you made a change and you wanted to push it up before he or she made a change before they pushed it up. So you would make your change on your branch and you would push it up and it would show like, actually, let me see if I can show you guys instead of just saying it. So if I do like git -b and like name it new branch, unknown, hold on, git, see, I forgot the command, which is why we love Google. So git branch command, let's figure out what it is. So you can always type everything in, which is what I do too. When I forget commands, you can just do git branch command, and I'm going to figure out what that command was because obviously I did it wrong. So let's see. Let me see what the command is. Oh, okay. I forgot to put git checkout. So the git checkout is basically saying we're going to leave this branch and create a new branch. So that's what I was missing. Okay, so you do git checkout -b and the name of your branch. So I'm going to name it new branch, not a git repository. Why are you being this way? Let me just copy it from here. This is the time where it's okay to copy commands because you're not copying someone else's code, so it's okay. But I don't know why it's doing that. Not a git repository. So it's not working for me right now. I have no idea why it's not working, but I'm not going to troubleshoot it at the moment since we are recording. That's just something that you can probably Google later. But usually what you can do is create a different branch and I need to go back to my thing. But yeah, you can create a new branch and you basically stage your changes and you could push it up from there, and you can basically work on one project simultaneously with like 3 or 4 other people, however many other people, and they can also go to your branch and make changes and things like that. It's kind of a way to work on one thing at the same time while other people are also working on things. And so basically where they don't have to wait on you to finish something before they can work on what they need to work on. So maybe you're doing like a front end application where somebody's working on a login and then someone else is working on how to style someone's profile picture, and someone else is figuring out how to add in like cloud infrastructure or whatever. You can work on those 3 separate things at the same time and not wait on someone else to finish what they're doing, because that takes a lot of time, and time is of the essence when you're building things. Like, no one wants to wait on somebody else to do their work. That's crazy. A Vista option. I'm sorry. Is that like a Windows Windows something? I know Vista is like Windows Vista. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an old operating system.
Yeah.
Back on Windows 7. Yeah. So I got a question, because you were talking about and what some of the things you were talking about as far as multiple people operating or working on the same.
You said multiple people
code
working
or
on
the same project.
Claude,
On a
Claude, we
project
lost you.
or particular code.
Claude, we lost you. You want to say that again?
Am I hearing that? Can you hear me now?
Yep, all good. Go ahead,
Okay.
brother.
So it reminds me of, like you say, multiple people working on a particular project or a particular code. So going back to the old days of Excel, where you had a shared file, and somebody would check out an Excel file that was real massive. They do some changes to it. Nobody else could touch that file until they checked it back into the SharePoint. What prevents someone, let's say you got 4 different people, person A, B, C, and D, working on this particular code. Now, I get it where you're saying as far as creating a branch, you do your thing, push it back up. Person A does their thing, they push it back up, C and D follow suit. If person A screws up something on their code, don't realize it, and then pushes it up, how does that get corrected? Or is there some checks and balances in place for mistakes like that?
So there is a check and balance in place, which I wish I could show you right here. So when someone makes a new branch and they push something up, there's a setting in place where you can put it where whoever makes new changes, it has to be approved by everyone else who's on that same project. So say, for example, I wish I can, hold on. Let me see if I can Google and show you. Get branch, approve changes. So it's called a pull request. So when you make a new branch and you basically push up some new code, it creates like this kind of alert system where it becomes like a pull request. And before you can merge it back into the main project profile, whoever's on that project with you, they have to review your code and they have to basically approve it before it's pushed back into the original project. So while that person may have pushed their new changes up, it's still on that specific branch until your team approves what you've written, and then it gets merged into the final original project file.
Okay, so yeah, so it's almost like in a network engineering when we create configurations for a client for their network. It's like peer review. That's what you're describing, a peer review. Okay, that makes sense.
And the reason why it does that too, so say for example, maybe that person made a change and everyone agreed to it, but then later on they realized that change affects everybody else's, where it kind of makes everyone else's code not work. You can easily roll back that change and go back to the previous version, which is why you have this version control system. You're tracking everything. So you can see what exactly didn't work, what piece of area broke something, or kind of double check and look at, okay, this is what it was before, this is what it is now, this is when it was working, and this is why it's not working. Let's compare and contrast and see what exactly is happening here so that we can fix. If you were just pushing it all willy-nilly, you would never know what was wrong.
Right. Who did what and when they did it. Yeah. I got you. Because I've witnessed, you got these massive Excel spreadsheets, 40,000 lines long, and they just scroll on for days and days, and somebody will fat finger something and wipe out 30 or 40 lines, and nobody knows it. and they got it checked out. So when they check it back in, it basically overwrites. It does an overwrite of what was up in the SharePoint for everybody else to access. And then, like you say, when the next person comes behind them to add their piece of whatever it is they need to add to it, they don't know it's jacked up. They don't know that there's been a whole bunch of lines and stuff that's been taken out. So they check it out, add their stuff. So now you got two people who have gone through this here file that's broken, but nobody has caught it yet, and then so on and so on. So that's what, when you was talking about sharing and collaborating and stuff like that, that's what had me thinking, as far as, is there checks and balances? But you just pointed to that, so appreciate that.
Yep, and I think that's like one of the major points of using GitHub and using Git. You can see all of that, even if it's just you can see everything. Well, if it's just you and you're following the correct methods, you can see where exactly things might have gone wrong. You can go back to the previous code. It's basically like your own personal version control system where you can check yourself and you can check others as well. And it's also a really good way to host your projects. So, if you want to show somebody something, it's right there. Just go to your profile. You don't have to, let me go on my laptop real quick. Let me send you this file. Like, no, it's already there because you've already started that process. Exactly. Now, what I will say next is, I know a lot of you probably have not used GitHub or use those resources, which that is completely fine. There's like this video, and I recommend this video to everybody because it's only an hour long. But if you're like me, you put it on, you can speed it up or whatever, or go to specific parts that make sense for you, or you can watch a couple of parts, one piece at a time. But this video here is, I absolutely love it because it's straight to the point. She goes through what Git is. She'll tell you to go to this website as well, download Git. You can learn a little bit how Git works, why we use Git, why everyone loves Git. And she'll go through how to download and go through for your specific machines, how to make SSH keys if you wanted to be a little bit more secure when you're doing your projects. And she goes super, super in depth. It's an hour long. And I think she goes over branching, which, yeah, she does go over branching, which I don't know why. For me, it wasn't working. But yeah, I have no idea why it wasn't working for me, but I'll figure that out different time. But yeah, going through this video, she has everything that you need. And if you're curious, like if you want to work on things, there's a bunch of different like repos where you could start out at. So I'm in the DevSecOps SRE area, which means I work primarily in the cloud as well. So I'll recommend like 100 Days of Cloud, where you can probably learn. And you guys are in networking, so networking and cloud goes hand in hand. So you can probably use like a platform like 100 Days of Cloud to get you started, which you can go on their GitHub portfolio, which if you go on their website, which is 100daysofcloud.com, and once you load it up, they'll have a open source platform for like visit our GitHub. If you click that link, they have a bunch of different profiles, and this is ran by Andrew Brown. He's on Twitter. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's amazing. He provides a bunch of free resources on learning about cloud. So AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. He doesn't really like IBM Cloud, which, I mean, I get it. But he has a bunch of different ways where you can like start and learn and kind of start your GitHub portfolio process. So say, for example, you wanted to do like 100 Days of Cloud. I'll just choose like backend, because it says Python, so I'll just choose that. So say, for example, you want to start on this, like he already started here, architecture, blah, blah, blah. And he goes a little bit in depth about how to do your GitHub branches, do your CI/CD environments. So say you wanted to start here and you wanted to create something, you would do that same thing I told you guys about before. You would do that Git clone, which I'll do now to give you an example and show you. So I'll just go new window again, because this is a different project now. So I'll do a new window and I'll go back to that file that I made. So let me go and find it. I believe it was in documents and projects. So I'll make a new folder. I think I might use the same folder. No, I'll make a new folder. And I'll just name this Days Cloud. I'll create it and I'll open this folder. And I'll go back into the terminal. So that terminal up here, and I'll do new terminal. I don't remember if I copied that link, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy this HTTPS link here. So again, I'm going to pull this whole project and put it on onto my local machine because I want to work on this. So I'll go take that link and I'll go to Git VS Code, and I'll go into this terminal here, and I'll do git clone Control V or Command V if you have a MacBook. And I just cloned that entire project that was on GitHub onto my local machine now. So now I have all of this information. So this is everything that he wrote. So now I have it on my machine. His YAML file, I have it on my machine now. So his more YAML files, it's on my machine, his CI/CD, his pipelines, it's now on my machine. I have access to everything that he wrote, and I can make some different changes now. So say maybe I wanted to create, I'm gonna completely mess this up, but say I wanted to create a new like folder, I'll just name it like folder. And let me go backwards because I actually did this. I did it the wrong way. So usually when you want to use someone's stuff first, you always want to fork it. My bad. If you want to use someone else's GitHub like project and make it your own, you want to fork it. And when you fork it, what that means is you're saving it to your GitHub profile, and then you're making changes. So if I was to make changes and push it up right now, it would go directly to his project. And I don't want that to happen. I want it to go onto my GitHub portfolio and not his GitHub portfolio. So what you would do is you would fork it, which is right here on this right-hand side. You would click fork. I have a bunch of different workspaces, so I would just put onto my regular profile. So now this project that was made is forked onto my GitHub portfolio. So now I can make changes. Excuse me. So what I would do is go back into my VS Code. Again, I would make these same changes. I would make these same changes. And because I was on a different link, hold on one second. Okay, because I was on a different link, what I would do is I would git initialize it onto this, this new link that I have. So now I switched it from that old branch, which was on the original 100 Days of Cloud backend, and I moved it onto my GitHub portfolio. So to do that again is git initialize, and I just use that new link that's on my GitHub portfolio. So let's say I make that folder and I made like a new file. I'll just do github.readme, which is when you do README files, I definitely named that wrong. When you do README files, it has to be MD, but README files is basically, it's allowing you to write words. So now I can write words and it won't give me an error. So if I save that file, if I save that, I can push it up into the GitHub portfolio, into my GitHub portfolio, and it'll pop up as like a new project, which is how I came up with having 101 like repositories, because these are literally all projects, which I've done a bunch. And a good way, post that YouTube video. Gotcha. I'll definitely post that video. And a good way also, if you don't want to, basically, if you don't want to create your own projects, or if you don't want to find projects to kind of start off with, a good way to also find projects, which is how kind of a way that I did it, is to go to like Linux Foundation. They have a bunch of stuff that you could like basically join into and apply to work on. where you get to work with like people who are actually like maintainers of different projects. And some of these maintainers are like engineers at like Google, Twitter, Docker, Kubernetes, or whatever. Sometimes these maintainers are like directors of, director of engineering of different companies or whatever. It's a good way to kind of get exposure and get your foot in the door, as well as like while you're learning. And like you only have to give up maybe like 5 hours a week of your time just to contribute to some of these projects. And it's on like mentorship.lfx.linuxfoundation.org, and you can basically see everything that you have available here. So if you're interested, you can always come on here and look at what they have. Right now, you'll see a lot of these are kind of closed because they open up like the beginning of every month, where you can apply to work on some of these projects. And for some of these, they do pay you as well. So if you apply to work on one of these projects and like they grant you access, you'll get to work on it for like 3 to 4 months. And some of them will pay you between like 2,000 to 6,000 just for that time period to work on those projects, because again, they do value your time. And it is through the Linux Foundation. So since it's through the Linux Foundation, it's super legit, and they believe in paying their whoever's like working on their things to, giving them compensation, because what you're working on is something that other people will get to use later on. So if you're kind of working on things that professionals in the industry are going to be using for whatever that they need to use it for, they believe you should get compensation. Another way to find projects that you can work on to kind of build like your GitHub portfolio, you can always look up like GitHub open source projects, and a bunch of things will pop up, which I can link those things into the Slack channel later. But with using Git and GitHub, I feel like it's a game changer. It's how I got into the field, to be honest. I came from a non-traditional background. I didn't go to school for computer science. I studied using YouTube University and Google Academy and Reddit. Like that's all I used to get into the area that I was in. I didn't have any certifications. I didn't do certifications. I focused on getting my skills first before I even decided to do certifications, especially because they cost a lot. But this is exactly how I started, which is why I have a whole bunch of different repositories. But yeah, that's all I have for now. If you have any questions, I'm so happy to answer. I mean, if I did it,
Diamond, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, that was amazing. I mean, again, one big thing was, what you showed us about, the difference between, on how to clone it to your local machine or what have you, and going over that again, and then also, how to get involved in projects. I think that was the biggest thing, because right now folks don't know how to get started or how to get their foot in the door. So thank you so much. This was an amazing presentation. Really appreciate it. And guys, if you have questions, please go ahead and drop them now. And if not, I'll go ahead and give you guys back some time, give you guys 5 minutes, and let Diamond get back to hopefully eating dinner, and we'll go from there.
So
go ahead.
So your pro.
I was having a little
trouble.
trouble.
Claude, your BlackBerry chopping up, bro. We don't need to get it out. So.
Stand by the window.
You go ahead, stand by the window. Man, put foil on your head, baby. That's it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So no matter how small, let's
We're gonna build Claude
say,
a bot.
we're all down.
We're gonna build you a bot, Claude, for Signal.
Is it break?
Well,
I tell you what, I'll put it. I'll type it. I'll type it in the in Slack and put it in there.
You want to type it on Zoom where I can read it?
Yeah, Claude, you can drop it in the Zoom. While Claude's doing that, I'm sure you heard us. Z, go ahead and I know you got a question. Go ahead, bro.
Well, Diamond, I do have a question, but I want to say thank you too, because I want to say have you done that before? Thank you for running through that like that, and even showing the Linux Foundation where you can go and work with other people, and just where you can get out there and do that. I just appreciate the information. I will have some questions down the line. I'm not gonna lie. I'm working on a lot right now, but I appreciate you doing that. Have you ever presented that before, or that was your first time in that setting like that?
So I presented something like this before, but I haven't done like something like this, you know.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Like, it was very in depth, and that's what I could appreciate. And you were ready too. Like, once you got started, look, we rolled the whole time. So I really did amazing. Don't be nervous to tap into your YouTube side or your, this is the first video, but you might have many more of where people are able to get that information.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Claude says, so no matter how small a program is that we create, you still recommend that we display it for the world. Yes, so it doesn't matter what you make. If it's just a project where you just wrote like, hey, I'm awesome, like put that on your GitHub. You can make it private, like you don't have to make it public, but just have that to where just in case you need to show it to somebody, it's available for you to just give a link. You know what I'm saying? Like it's easier to already have this kind of system in place where you're just, it's second nature. So say for example, going to like an interview and they go, you use GitHub. You're like, oh man, I use that every day. Like I'm doing this project over here. I made this. Like having GitHub is a skill that not a lot of people have. To be honest, you would think that everybody knows it, but GitHub is still kind of new in the software world. Not everybody knows it, and it's a learning curve for a lot of people. So if you already know it and you already use it every day, and you could just share a link real quick, it's fantastic. And a lot of people use GitHub just to house like their notes and stuff. Like I have a bunch of notes when I was like first learning what stuff meant. Like I took a networking course and I have a whole GitHub project where it's just networking notes. So if someone goes, hey, did you do this networking thing? Like, I'm really confused on how this works. I'm like, oh, I have these notes. I can just share you my GitHub link. It's private, but here's the link, blah, blah, blah. It's so much easier than to go, let me go share this file on Google Drive. Like if you're already working at IT, you'll just be using GitHub.
Okay, makes sense.
What all languages do you know? I know you're showing us Python. Are there other languages? And from where you at now, I know all 101 weren't completed, weren't finished, just different things you've done, started. What's that time frame that you've been doing this or using GitHub to now?
So I've been using GitHub off and on since like, I would say 2019, like the end of 2019 is when I kind of started. And I've kind of dabbled in a bunch of different stuff. Like I have a portfolio when I was learning quantum, because I was like, oh, quantum and blockchain and cloud, like that's going to be a thing soon. Not a lot of people think about it, but it's going to be a thing soon. So I learned quantum. I had to learn Docker. So I have a whole portfolio for Docker. When I had to learn Kubernetes, there's one for Kubernetes. When I was like, okay, I got to learn Kubernetes for Azure because it's a little bit different. I got a project for Kubernetes on Azure. When I was learning about like DevOps things, I have a project where I was going through developer things and then operations work as well as sysadmin, stuff like that. So anything that I've touched on, I have a GitHub project for, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I appreciate you saying that, because with IT and tech, and even though I haven't started coding a lot, I've done the regular Python, like Hello World and all that, the little bit of Python. But you saying that is very important to me, because it's a lot of different things I'm touching on even now with my cybersecurity with different tools. And so I appreciate you, making it clear that, yeah, I've touched a lot of things. I've heard about, I've seen it. I want to touch it and see it. And I document all those projects so they're all there. So that's important too, because sometimes people focus on one thing at a time, and it's good to hear someone say, well, yeah, I've dabbled and dabbled, and it's all there and documented. So that's very important.
Yeah, you don't want to just be talking. You want to actually have the stuff to back it up. Otherwise you just gossiping at that point.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
Have you checked out some of the stuff that we've been doing in the Slack room?
Hold on. We gotta get off recording for that one. On my back.
Have you had a chance to look at some of the stuff we did in the Slack Slack automation section?
why you getting on me like that, Chloe? I thought it was cool.
But you don't peek in and check on us from time to time.
Well, I haven't, because like my Slack didn't like me. I got it just fixed today. Why you trying to put me on blast?
Okay. Well, when you get time, because Dave and I have been dropping a lot of different things that we've been coming across. I think Zamir also popped up a video in there from something he did from some time ago.
Right.
And I think it was something pertaining to graphics. But we're all learning it at different paces, going through the variables, how to create lists, some of that basic stuff. Dave, as you know, he's a Power Ranger fan, so a lot of his projects or a lot of his Python lessons are centered around Power Rangers. I've actually been playing with my networking gear at the house, interacting with that. Patrick hit us with something the other night that was actually interacting on the web with the actual Slap application. So of course he hit it with some serious, Jedi, Master Yoda type stuff, and it was like it was all Greek when I looked at it. I mean, it was one to sit there and interact with an actual application that we mess with.
Right.
That was totally next level. But yeah, when you get a time, just check in on that automation section and look at some of the stuff that we fooling around with. And if you got any insights, anything like that, they're more than welcome to, we're more than warm enough and open to accept those comments for sure.
Gotcha. Definitely will. Definitely will.
Well, folks, this was good. Diamond, thank you so much again for your time. We're going to go ahead and close it here. Again, the recording will be posted shortly. And guys, feel free to, again, engage with her. Again, just she's a human being like everybody else. She's not going to respond quickly. So if you guys do have questions, please give her some time to respond. On that note, I'll go ahead and end it. You guys have a great night, okay?
Thanks. See ya.
No problem. Everybody have a great night.